Greetings builders, Daniel here, and this is already the third part of our 12 starter builds for the new league Trial of the Ancestors. If you missed part 1 and 2, it's easy to fix that. You just need to find our links together with the POBs and complete guides in the video description. Let's start this one with a build that once again survived the nerf hammer. I can't believe how such OP builds is still running on full power. I'm of course talking about the Venom Gyre Deadeye with the Ranger class. Venom Gyre is a very interesting skill which fires a projectile that hits enemies and returns to you, piercing and dealing damage to everything on its path. When the projectile successfully returns to you, you can keep and stack them up to 30 times, and they will all be released at once when you use the Whirling Blades movement skill. To list the pros of this build, I wouldn't even know where to start. It comes with an amazing clear speed, boss damage and a big effective HP. Above all, it's cheap and easy to put together. It doesn't require any mandatory unique item. Now, to list the cons is the real challenge here. It's hard to find something not to like on this build. However, I would say that as most builds, this one is also vulnerable to chaos damage, unless of course you invest on chaos resistance gear. As for budget, based on previous leagues, this build is cheap. You can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 90 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 120 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. Don't forget that on PoEbuilds.net you can find a list with all the equipment that you need to buy for this build, with direct links for examples being sold by other players. For clear speed, I'll give this build 10 out of 10. The Venom Gyre projectile already has an expansive nature for the amount of time it stays dealing damage on screen. Now, with a Deadeye that grants a lot of speed and many buffs to projectiles, the result is what you're seeing on this tier 16 gameplay. The boss damage is also a 10 out of 10. You can use Vol Venom Gyre to instantly have 50 stacked projectiles and delete bosses with an amazing shotgun effect using Whirling Blades on them. It's just unreal, and I can't believe it wasn't nerfed again. For this survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. This build counts with over 80,000 effective HP because of high armor, high evasion, spell suppression and block chance. Next we have a build that is everyone's favorite, the destructive Super Cyclone Slayer with the Duelist class. This build turns you into a walking blender with a huge average effect, damage, speed and instant reach. To list the pros of this build, I would start with its clear speed. It's just amazing to be always moving and massacring all the poor enemies on the way. The boss damage is also amazing. Once the build is done, you're going to kill even the big bosses in just seconds. Above all of that, this build is also very simple to put together. It doesn't need any mandatory unique item. Now, to list the cons, I would point a few important issues and I'd like to ask you to pay close attention here. You see, this build has a great survivability once it's done, but when you're leveling your character you need to pace your progression, because you're always very close to enemies. If you're not prepared, you are going to die. So take the extra time to pick up a few more levels before progressing to a high tier content. Another useful tip about your survivability is how to deal with stuns. On this build, you get stun immunity with cluster duels, but not everyone can afford them right away. If that's your case, or if you're just having problems with stuns sooner, do this simple trick of picking those evasion nodes and this mastery. Believe me, it helps a lot. As for budget, I can only estimate it for now, but normally you can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 90 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 115 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 6 divines. For clear speed, I'll give it 10 out of 10. Cyclone never stops moving, so you can farm your maps without needing to stop for casting or anything like that. It's just awesome and very satisfying. The boss damage is great and deserves 9 out of 10. Prepare yourself to destroy even the biggest bosses in just a few seconds. Now, for the survivability, I'd only give it 8 out of 10, but don't get me wrong, this build still has over 70,000 effective HP because of high armor, evasion, spell suppression and instant reach. I just took 2 points out because you're always very close to enemies, which puts you in a vulnerable position. Finally, we have that build that is hard to follow with your eyes, the incredibly fast Flicker Strike Slayer with the Duelist class. This build uses Terminus S to sustain the frenzy charges needed for you to keep flickering. It's a great and simple flicker strike build for beginners. To list the pros of this build, I would have to start with its clear speed. Look at that, this is just insanely fast. It also counts with an awesome boss damage and instant life leech. And of course, flicker builds are just super cool. Now, to list the cons, I would start with the fact that you're always very close to enemies, which puts you in a vulnerable position. Another issue is that you have little control over your character, making it hard on bosses where you need to mind your position or attack the right enemy. As for budget, you can get it destroying early in-game maps with only around 80 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 120 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. You need only one mandatory unique item for this build, the Terminus S sword that keeps your frenzy charges up even while flickering. For clear speed, this build is surely a 10 out of 10, and I don't even need to say anything, just take a look at the gameplay and you have to agree with me. The boss damage is great and deserves 9 out of 10. This build can easily deal many millions of damage per second, it's just great to kill big bosses like that. Now for the survivability, I'll only give it 8 out of 10. Even though this build still has almost 100,000 effective HP because of high armor, evasion and spell suppression, I had to take 2 points out for the same reason as I did with the Cyclone Slayer. Since you're always very close to enemies, you're always in a vulnerable position. And that's all for today guys, but don't worry, many more starry builds are coming this week. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments and give a thumbs up to support the channel. I wish you guys an amazing day, and don't forget to keep building!